Good morning. My name is Anthony Veri. I'm going to go over smart city platforms. There's a lot of options out there. What does a smart city platform, what's it supposed to do, and what are current platforms out there doing right now? This picture here, we've seen a lot of pictures trying to symbolize fast-moving information and items and devices in cities around the world. If you look at this picture and look at each pixel and multiply that by 1,000, that begins to tell you how much data is traversing even before all the smart technology is implemented. So there's a ton of data that travels every second via wireless radio waves, via fiber, via a coax cable. What do we do with this data? How can we monetize the data and have actionable data? Because the sake of just connecting things in a city or in a building has no real value unless you know how to take that data, understand it, analyze it, filter it, and then take an action on that data. So a lot of cities, a lot of companies are looking for help in those areas, and this is where a lot of companies are coming out with solutions. And they might not be the whole solution. They might be a software application that needs to be in the cloud, so you might need a cloud provider. Then you also need infrastructure that can bring data to that application. So there's a lot of moving components, and there's a lot of players in the game of smart cities and smart buildings. But to be able to tell the differentiating characteristics between them is very tough if it's not your daily job. So a lot of times I get asked many questions about smart cities and smart buildings, and there's thousands of questions. So I brought up a couple of the major ones that I'll go over. These are a couple of definitions and explanations that I came up with. So what is a smart city platform? You will get all these slides at the end as well, so if I go over them too quickly, don't worry, you'll get them later. So you always hear the single pane of glass, but the main difference, well, actually not difference, the smart city platform itself, it collects data from various sources. It could be from IoT sensors, smart technology, and gateways. It could be cellular, it could be unlicensed frequency, it could be connected devices, Ethernet or coax cable. And then they come back to a platform that will collect this data, and then what do you do with that data? A smart city platform will not only aggregate and collect the data, it can transport the data. It could transport it locally on-premise, it could transfer it to the cloud. And there's so many diverse devices out there that are working on different protocols, different computer languages. So the smart city platform has to be able to adapt and be vendor agnostic. So that way you're not limiting yourself or not being able to see some of the data that is being collected within your city or within a building. So a lot of people sometimes use the word IoT platform and smart city platform synonymously. There is a difference, and the difference that I see is IoT's main focus is to collect data from the Internet of Things devices, smart devices, where smart city platforms are going to collect data from all types of devices, not just IoT devices. I've worked on projects with cities that during their digital transformation, sometimes it could be just data coming from the accounting department, the permitting department, and the building inspector. Previously, it was all written and copied and imported into their systems, and they would lose data. So sometimes a smart city platform doesn't mean that it's only smart technology that this platform should be able to handle and be able to spread amongst other siloed departments. Then it comes to smart city platforms. There's open source and there's proprietary solutions out there. So what's the main differences between open source and proprietary? I go over some of the pros and cons up here. Obviously, you understand that open source means it's free to use. You have the ability to modify and change it, but you have to learn how to do that if you don't already know how to do that. So there's time and effort and sometimes learning that needs to take place for you to be able to do that. And do you have the time to do it? Because it's not like just doing a simple mathematical problem. There's a lot of components and a lot to learn, but it can be done. And I'll go over ways that some cities are looking at doing this option. Some of the cons, it's usually not as secure as some of the proprietary solutions because it's free. A lot of times security is not the main focus. It's get out a platform, make it open source, and then people will start developing security solutions for this platform. They'll develop applications for the open source platform and so forth. With the proprietary, you're paying money in the premium for a reason. It's been evaluated, it's been tested. Generally, security has been looked at because it's handling city and citizen information. There's a lot of built-in reporting and graphing functionality, and they do offer rates generally. I'll get into specifics of different companies as far as the support and training. So when you're buying a proprietary solution, you're not just getting a software package and open it and you're on your own. They'll come out there, they'll train and teach whatever group is going to be handling the smart city platform, and they'll offer additional support because it's not something that you could learn in a couple days. Even months down the road, you'll have questions, you'll add things, you might change things, and they'll be there to support. And then obviously some of the cons I list there are simple as well. It is expensive. You have to understand how the smart city platforms are priced. They're priced differently. Some can be how many connected devices, how much data is traversing. It could be in messages counted in the millions or actually billions, or it could even be the bandwidth usage. And also you have to consider storage. Are you storing the information on premise or is it in the cloud? If you're storing it in the cloud, which cloud provider do you choose? And how do you understand their pricing? It's very confusing if you don't read all the fine print. And a lot of times cities see a price tag and they budget for that price tag, but they don't understand the operational cost and their expenses going forward. Then that's where the cloud storage, how much usage that they're using, how many modules on the smart city platform they'll actually need to start off. So I generally tell them to start off small because it's very massive what a smart city platform can handle. Do you want to just do LED lighting, or do you want to do air quality control, or do you want to have sensors throughout the roads in the city? Not only when you get this data, you have to understand who's going to see the data and who's going to be responsible for taking action on this data. These are some of the challenges with smart city platforms. Every vendor out there obviously believes that they have one of the best solutions out there, and you're going to see a lot of marketing that says so. So how do you decipher when you have 3 competitors and they're all telling you why you should buy their solution, that is the right solution? The best thing to do is to actually form a group, evaluate all these solutions, look for more information. If you don't know something, don't be afraid to ask Ask a consultant or a smart city expert that is vendor agnostic, who has actually used a lot of these platforms and solutions that are out there today. And everybody wants to know, well, what's the ROI? And that's the main reason we're here, is to talk about the business value of smart city platforms. Sometimes the ROI isn't a hard ROI. It's not just dollars saved or energy conserved. It is also security and safety. And sometimes it's just the satisfaction of your citizens knowing that they have their public services that they could reach online, or easier than having to travel down to City Hall or to a public agency to communicate with their city. And then it also adds benefit to handicapped, to underserved, or to minorities that have government aid. There's always issues that can be improved within cities. And this is where the satisfaction of your citizens isn't necessarily a dollar amount that you could put in a hard ROI, but can be realized with smart city platforms. The whens and whys when do you buy a smart city platform and why do you buy a smart city platform? I talked a little bit about this already, but the main reason is when you're digitizing all your information and all your applications and services, it can be hard with all this data in your network and where it's stored to actually find it. A couple cities that I've worked with have done a good job digitizing a lot of their processes, but when they go to look some information up, sometimes it's 10 clicks and 12 screens that they have to get to find an answer because the information is in different applications, they're not connected, and sometimes their customers or their citizens are waiting and waiting. So just digitizing the information isn't going to solve all your problems, but it is the first step that needs to be done to progress with your smart city initiatives. And I did go over a little bit about the pricing. The pricing of these smart city platform solutions are different. They're not always the same, so it's not comparing apples to apples. So make sure you look at how the smart city platform is priced and charged. A couple of cities that I've dealt with out west didn't realize that they could have bought a lower subscription of the smart city platform, and they ended up going over budget by about $700,000 just in 1 year. So it's not a small mistake. It's fairly large when you're using taxpayer dollars and your citizens want to know where the money is spent. So making smart decisions is always something that I try to communicate with my clients before worrying about smart technology. Here, I blanked out the names of the companies that I've dealt with and tested and evaluated on smart city platforms. This briefly shows how they rank in comprehensiveness, their ecosystem, their subscription model and costs, and their focus on cities. How well does this platform actually conform to what cities are doing? The next slide also goes over more on the technological criteria of these smart city platforms. And you'll see that they all have different functional capabilities, interoperability, integration. It's not an easy undertaking to have a smart city platform integrated into a city. There's a lot of stakeholders that are important to establish in these meetings before you even think about purchasing. And then there's obviously security, scalability, and the user experience. Now, I do have a lot of write-up that I did on the smart city platforms that I've evaluated and tested. And that's something that if anyone wants more information, can talk to me after about this. Or for a mere 4 Bitcoin, I'd be happy to share it with you guys as well. So here's another infographic trying to depict where city software applications sit, where the city smart city platform is, where your cloud infrastructure can be, how it's shared, where the devices are, and where the sensors are. So it's important to see where the data comes from, where it traverses, where it resides, and the idea of a very smart city platform is to be able for anyone in the city to see the information that they need to in a timely fashion, but also to make sure that they're not seeing or touching information in other areas that they don't have access to or authorization. So just having a great smart city platform is only the beginning. Setting up the authorizations and priorities and passwords for the people who have access to the smart city platform is another crucial step that needs to be taken and is also does take time. This is another little diagram I made to show where the smart city platforms sit, or where they should sit, and where you have IoT security, which over the past couple of years, really, there wasn't much IoT security, and now there's been more of a focus over the past year, and this year going forward, you'll see more of that. So a smart city platform, you see I have it, it's with connectivity, edge computing, and the data control and exchange. This is where you see a lot of your IT infrastructure, from wireless access points, routers, servers, switches, firewalls. What's nice about the smart city platform, and another differentiator from an IoT platform, is you could have edge computing and have that information come to your smart city platform instead of having it traverse to the cloud and to an IoT platform and then come back. It saves the cost of having additional IoT cloud storage, and you could also lower your latency on the information and the data that's coming from the edge. So here I go over some more of the business value of smart city platforms. You see the smart city solutions here on the left, ways to monetize. So it's not just buying a smart city platform for the data and to have actionable data. There's ways that cities can monetize this to offset the cost of their cloud storage, of their smart city subscription. So cities have a big undertaking when they're starting their smart city initiatives. And it begins with having a good smart city platform. And there's many components that play into making it work and also being able to monetize it and also show value, not only in ROI to the city, but value to your citizens. It goes over on the right side, the technology platform and shared operations. I show this slide here for the digital transformation, and this is crucial to be able to use smart city platforms and IoT platforms. If you only have your basic common services and departments digitized, it's going to make things not as smooth when you're working with a smart city platform. The next slide here, I'll show you where those same initiatives on the digital transformation are focuses for setting up a smart city platform and your smart city initiatives. So now you have a smart city platform and you have information coming in. What do you do after all this information starts coming in? Because the one thing you do not want to have happen is have all this data coming in, being stored, overloading your servers. You have to buy more storage on-premise or more cloud storage, and then you create data lakes. And then that data usually never gets seen, and you're wasting a lot of resources and a lot of money. So you have smart city monitoring. And why do you want to do smart city monitoring? There's a lot of benefits that you can achieve when you monitor your systems that are operating within your city that are IoT, smart technology, or even your basic communications and IT networks, video surveillance networks, and even access control. And it goes over all the topics here: baselining, inventory, capacity, growth. Growth is key because when you monitor your networks, it will tell you ahead of time how you're trending, and you don't buy equipment or you don't buy software or applications before you need them, or you don't buy them after you've needed them a year ago. This will give you the information so that you know when you're going to need to expand your network or add more storage, and you could properly budget for that. So I do have my Lean Six Sigma black belts in continuous improvement, so I like to talk with cities about the cost of downtime because a lot of them have no idea. This usually helps drive the point for investing in smart technology and the digital transformation. And it also gives them an eye-opening number once they do see what the cost of downtime is. I have proprietary calculators that I put in data that I collect from the cities to show them. And there's millions of variables that you could create scenarios to show if a certain area of the city goes down, what would that cost be, instead of the likelihood of the whole entire network for the city going down is usually pretty rare. So there's a lot of ways that we could manipulate the calculators to show certain areas of the network or the city or buildings or departments. And this is the last slide. It just shows the company I work for, Integrated Network Concepts. Everything that we do, this year we've done more of a focus with smart cities, focusing on IoT and security. A lot of times when I've worked with cities, their networks are out of date, end of life, unsupported, and they have a lot of vulnerabilities. So we don't want to put smart technology or IoT devices when the networks are underperforming and not secure. So we want to try to build a smart core network for the cities that is scalable, and then they could actually think about employing technology on the edge, and that way it'll work and also be secure. And that's all I have right now. Thank you for your time.